Hey, and welcome. This is Wisconsin Shoe Guy. Sorry for the brief break. Just got really tied up with things at work and wasn't able to spend any time on videos, but I am going to be getting caught up here. So hopefully you find these reviews helpful. Welcome to Wisconsin Shoe Guy. Here we do unboxing videos. We discuss general shoe knowledge. We do worth the price videos as shoe reviews. And we will do shoe battles, comparing shoe to shoe so that you can understand the differences. I also speak to experts in the field. So welcome. This is going to be a shoe review of the Yeossal. This is going to be a shoe review of the Yeossal Thompson. This is a very cool shoe with spade soles. What does that mean? That means that the angle on the soles is out a little bit on both sides. The narrow waist, so it looks kind of like a spade. This is made in Horween hatch grain leather. So if we look at the leather grain here, you can see exactly how this looks. It's a very interesting, complex grain, and I really like the way these shoes have the grain. I feel like it really sets them apart. The shoes themselves are very well made. They're made by Yeossal by a factory in China. It's very hard to know exactly which factory, but the overall look of the shoe is good. If you look at the stitch connection here, this is not a simple saddle stitch. It's very well done. You know, this is a hand stitch. There's always a lot of people who question whether it's a hand or a machine stitch, but this is all hand. Okay, and these shoes are considered to be handmade. They may, if you look here, they may use a sole stitcher, or they may not. It's hard to tell for sure. There is some fudging here. Excuse me, there is not fudging here. That is actually the sole stitching. No fudging. So that's an interesting thing. Now, so we're going to try this again. Looking at the sole stitch and seeing that close up. Is that fudging or is that stitching? It really looks like stitching, which is fascinating. So it looks like they have a little channel in there, and that's just the stitching. But again, if you do fudging right, it's supposed to look exactly like stitching. That is fudging. Interesting. So the shoes themselves are very, very nice. They are hand welted, and the sole itself has got a really nice fiddleback waist. These have tapered heels. There's no nail visible in the heel, which is unique among my shoes. The only ones that I have are actually from another company called October 10th, which is also manufactured in China, and several people have told me that it's the same factory, although both factories have not confirmed that. So it's an interesting thing. So this is a walking video of my second wear of my Yeossal Thompson shoes. I've had them, I guess, about 2-3 weeks, and a viewer asked me to perform a review on them, so trying to provide as much input as I can. If you look at the shoes, you can see that they have a spade sole on them, and I'm wearing thick socks to try to keep them together. These are pretty nice shoes. They have a really great sole work on them, and they've done a nice job with the insoles. Really, it's a straight insole. It's not there's no sock liner that's providing any cushion, which I think is a difference between the Yeossal shoes and the October 10th, which allegedly everybody says are made in the same factory. I can't tell you that for sure, although I can tell you that the shoe trees are the same. So as you think about these, this is more of your I would say more traditional feel to them. The insole itself is hard, and it simply conforms to the shape of your foot. Now, the good side of that is also that if the shoes are a little on the big side, you can put an insole in them and have enough room to do so. As you would expect, the hatch grain on these is really soft. You can see the texture in it is really profound. And you can see this, the stitching on the top sole is absolutely perfect. They do a nice job. They do a nice job on the reverse as well. And the reverse in hatch grain is, you know, tricky on the way they do it. And I think that Yeossal does a really nice job. As we look at it, you know, how does it compare to other shoes in the range? So I've actually brought two other tier 2 shoes. These shoes cost about $610. So thought I would compare just to a couple of other shoes that are in the same ballpark. Okay? So first, we have these. These are the October 10ths. So again, looks like it's made in the same factory. This is the BX7 last. This is the Huang last. You can see that there is some slight variance. The toe is a little bit longer. The way they do the split toe is the skin stitch itself is different. Okay, so you have that, and you have that. Not big different, but different enough to say maybe it's not even the same factory. Now, what's big difference on these, and you can see the sole is painted, but also no nails. This is a straight sole instead of a taper. Now, this, the October 10th, actually has a full sock liner, which is padded, so that changes it a little bit. If you look at the length of the back piece, this is exactly even with the heel, where this is below the heel here and here, right? So there's slight difference, right? It's actually kind of the same. If I look at it side by side, where the heel starts, I guess I would say that that is actually the same. Both clicked as a single piece of leather. Obviously, this is just a plain calf, and this is the grain. The sole, the curvature of the sole here is the same. So very, very suspicious that these would be made in the same factory. In fact, I bet, you know, the shoe trees would fit precisely. Actually, I can probably do that. Here, let me just see. Because if it is the same last, then one would think that the tree would fit precisely. And there we go. There's absolutely no give on this last anywhere on either shoe. So that is probably a sign that they're made in the same factory. So again, looking at the soles, look at the way they did the toe. Now this Triumph plate is actually better done than this one. This one has a little bit of a bump, but I gotta be honest, my other pair of October 10th has the same level of bump as this, and it's very, very minor. It's not bad. So anyway, food for thought. So these are the shoe trees from Yeossal on October 10th. If you look carefully, you can see that the width of them, both here, and on this side here, is significantly different in length. We can actually measure it since we're here. This is 5.5 centimeters, and that is 7 centimeters. Okay, so that 1.5 centimeters, does that translate to something on the bottom of the shoe in that same space, right? That is the question. So this is the October 10th, right, which is 6 centimeters at the base, okay, which is narrower, right? So now we do the same thing here on the Yeossal pair, and it is 6.5 centimeters, or 6 centimeters at the base. So actually the same. So again, when we look at these two side by side, the shoes are nearly identical. So not significantly different in shape. So the trees obviously look like they come from the same place. They're stained the same. So then that just belies the question, why are they really made by different makers? Or are they made by the same maker? You know, is this last really different? Or is this last really just very similar? Okay, so let's look again. Let's look at the rise of the shoe, the toe. We do it here. Very, very similar. So I'll leave it to you to decide. But as you can see, these two shoes share more in common than is different between them. And the difference in the pattern here that you see is actually something that's very important, because I expected these October 10ths to have that same pattern, but somehow when you mix suede and leather, that doesn't seem to come through. So let's take a little bit closer look. Here, you can see it there compared to here. Okay. In both shoes, they told me that was going to be there. Both of them told me it was going to be a pie crust connection on it. So I think the Yeossal's a little bit better. Really, I mean, I like this, and this is very clean, but I would have preferred to have this stitching there. So let me know what you think. So now we've looked at the Yeossal compared to the October 10th. So let's look at it compared to what are clearly different makers, right? So here we have, and here I'll use the other shoe so it makes a little bit more balance here. But let's take a look at these, right? This is a Paolo Scafora. Okay. Now the Paolo Scafora has a longer split toe, has a totally different type of connection here, has two top lines, and has a blucher that's actually sewn onto the outside. So it's a pretty different look. Also, it has a welt that's sewn on the outside like this without actually a welt underneath it. That's called a Norvegese stitch. And then here, you can see the blucher is not sewn on. It's actually stitched on, so it appears to be there, but it's just part of the side leather. This has a heel cap instead of a second top line. And of course, the apron is completely different. This has a spade sole with a fiddleback waist. This has a regular sole with a fiddleback waist, but not nearly as narrow. Okay. So slight differences there. So this is a tier 2 versus a tier 1. So let's look at another tier 2, also hand welted. Okay, this one's also in a hatch grain leather. Okay, but you'll see this has a raised toe and a totally different stitch type on the apron. Just looking at it there. Okay, doesn't have the space sole. This is actually a rubber sole, machine stitched. Has the second top line too, but in a different pattern. This one has one piece here. Okay, this is all sewn, and another piece that goes all the way around to here. So again, Enzo Bonafe, a very different design on the shoe. Now from a fudging perspective, does a nice job. As the fudging here. Okay. Versus the fudging here. And yes, still have trouble seeing the fudging on this, if there is in fact any fudging. Always looks like fudging when I look at it on the toe. So that might be an interesting place to look. So let's look on the toe. But again, I just see the stitch line. No fudging. So that's the tier 2. Now, let's look at a tier 3 shoe. This is the son of Henry George. This has, again, a different type of stitch here. has a reverse toe, but not a skin stitch. Right? Not nearly as clean as with this. Right? This is much more artfully done. This has a day-night sole, so different still. Has a heel cap, okay, and has stitched on blucher versus a sewn on blucher. Now this is in Utah calf versus, Utah calf, okay, with that pattern compared to the hatch grain. Again, very similar. So that's the tier 2. And then we'll go with the tier 1. This is a Meermin, and this is in willow calf. This has a very similar apron. It has a toe that's reversed, but not nearly as fine. Look at the two toes close together. You can see that it's much finer. Even the toe stitching is much finer. Okay. Both have the sewn on blucher. This has a heel cap on the Meermin, and a heel cap with a much narrower heel on here. Okay. Now, the Meermin is symmetrical. The Yeossal is mostly symmetrical. Just look at the tree and how much of the tree sticks out on both sides. So, food for thought. What is the big difference when it gets down to it? You know, even in the tier 1, in this particular tier 1, it is symmetrical. However, if I was to bring in my Acme, which I don't have here, the Acme is asymmetrical, as are my St. Crispins, as are my Gaziano and Girlings. So, food for thought.